I've been through the process now. This is 4th year here, and I've always taught 8th grade, so I've done it with all sorts of high schools, but we pretty much know Vista really well. So everything I'm going to tell you is based on the fact that this is what's been done in the past, and sometimes they don't communicate if there are changes. So if there are any changes, I'll definitely make sure you guys know, because I'll find that out next week when they tell it to the kids, which is always great, huh? So based on that, I just wanted to start out kind of letting you see, this is the Mount Vista website. So there's a ton of information here. But if you were to go up into the academic programs, and this is my favorite part, you go into academic programs, and we are registering next week. Oh, they finally put it in. Before when I was in here, the 15-16 wasn't in yet. So if you click on the, huh? You're right. You're right.
It's not finished yet.
Yeah, okay.
It'll be finished next day.
Okay, so we'll get it very soon, but I'm assuming it's going to be really similar.
Very similar.
There's probably going to be a few changes here and there depending on needs and likes of certain kids if they really were having a popular class or something like that. This is like a 50-page manual. Okay, I printed it once and I learned my lesson. I'll never print it again. But there is some great information in it, and the one thing I love about it is that it is based on alphabetically what type of course. So it'll start with the arts and kind of go through, maybe, there we go, course description. So it talks about all the different courses they can take in art. The big one, and the one that I find most important is math. You know, there are going to be some of you who might not think that's the most important, but you ask me, it is. So the best part about this is there are flowcharts for specific subjects. So, for example, this is the math flowchart. If your kiddo is in Algebra 1 as an 8th grader, then they are typically on, well, that needs to be, yeah, it must be down further. Like, wait a second, that's not there. There we go. Okay, so basically these are going to be our 2 tracks. My Math 8 kiddos will be on this track. My Algebra kiddos will be on this track. Now, you should have gotten a letter home, hopefully, maybe. Did they bring it? Yeah. Yes, they got it. The Algebra 1, most kids will go into regular Algebra 1, geometry, Algebra 2 trig, and then just so you know, that 4th year is not needed for graduation. However, depending on a university or college they're looking at, they really do like to see that 4th year. So it really depends on what their strength is, what they're looking at, and they really need to start all that planning in a couple of years before you know it. And then my Algebra kiddos will go into either honors geometry or regular geometry. So they have the track here as honors, but if they choose to go regular, they'll still take geometry, Algebra 2, it just won't be at the honors level. Okay? So, since I have so many parents who this is your first year with a kiddo going to high school, I want you to know that we as teachers have done this so many times. We know that changes, there are going to be huge changes when they step over there. Please, 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 we beg you to think about what else in life they're doing if you want them in all the honors classes. So, our recommendation is that they don't take any more than 2 honors classes. We kind of prefer 1. And I'm not saying that we won't sign off on some of them. There are kids who can handle 3 or 4, but what I also tell them is if you have 3 or 4 honors classes, you will not have a life. You need to realize you will do school, and that's about all you can do. So especially with our kids who are so involved in sports and everything, they still need all that time to get, every year, I get parent emails that first week of school. You did tell us they'd be up till 11 midnight doing homework. They will, especially if they're in honors classes, okay? So the homework load will be quite heavy for those honors classes. Obviously, they're gonna have homework, whether they're in honors or not, but really think about, and I also encourage them to think about what is their love? What do they really wanna do? Say they're really good at math, but they really want nothing to do with that. So focus on the language arts piece if that's really what you wanna do. So I've already had a couple discussions with kiddos on picking.
Is that because honors classes just give them more work? Or are the honors classes truly advanced at the level they're learning? Like what is the honors designation?
The honors designation should mean, and you know, I guess it's really hard to tell because there are gonna be different teachers. So if I'm talking about, I know really well the honors geometry piece because I've done it so many times. The honors means that yes, there's absolutely more work. They go into depth more. The pace is faster. So that's really the big keys. And it really depends on the teacher. There may be some honors courses that aren't quite as bad as others. So from what I've been told, they will have an option as a freshman to take a physics class, which is an honors class. But from what I've been told, most of that stuff is done in class. So they're not gonna have a ton of homework with that one. And I think that's mostly because he does so many demonstrations and things that, you know, he wants to make sure they're seeing everything.
And that's the honors physics, not the AP physics, because I think they continue.
As a freshman,
There's one class available that I know that's AP, and that's AP Human Geography, and that would be out of my area itself. And again, you're talking about a kid that's stepping out of middle school directly to a college class. So I'll talk about that in a little bit.
They can take AP Physics 1.
actually,
Or-
it is.
Yeah, they have to go through some
Yeah.
other checks on that too, though. Don't they? Is there a pre-exam into that one?
You have to be in geometry or honors geometry.
That's the big, yeah, they have to, in order to go into the physics, they have to have had the algebra piece. And they have to be pretty strong in it because the physics is algebra based
Yeah.
at that point. So if they're not, if they haven't already had that algebra piece, then they're gonna fall apart.
And we currently don't have geometry in this spot.
Right. Well, they need to be in geometry as a freshman.
Oh, and geometry.
So like all the algebra kids right now would be able to go into that class.
So the class you were talking about that doesn't have as much homework is the AP physics class.
From what I've heard, yes. But also from what I've heard, the two biggest, really a lot of work are going to be the geometry and the language arts piece. And then I don't know if have you heard much about the social studies?
Yeah, and I've get mixed feedback about that. The concern that I have there is, again, if the student should have a passion for geography. I'm Rick Blair, social studies teacher here. Okay. Most of you have seen before, of course. If their passion is social studies, specifically geography, then of course, and they've gotten A's last year in 7th grade, geography as well as this year in history, and show that they're capable of doing that. Of course, I've had a lot of my students that have been in that position who have come back and said, wow, a lot of work. Sometimes 2 hours of reading per night, pretty consistently, and a lot of work associated with the class. Again, if your student is also involved in baseball, in any club or activity, or drama, it's going to be really difficult if they're taking that class and 1 or 2 other classes at a advanced placement level or honors level going into that. And plus there are so many other options that are available if their passion is in another area of social studies for honors classes once they reach sophomore, junior, senior level. So it's not the only opportunity that they'll have to take something like that.
And there really is a very large amount of AP classes if they're really wanting to do that AP piece once they get past this freshman year. Last year, I think, was the very first year they allowed freshman AP classes at Mount Vista, or last year or the year before?
It's been a few years.
It's
Has
been
it?
2 years, we've had 2 years at AP Human
Like
Geography.
it's been, time goes by so fast. Don't you know, you guys are getting ready to register your kids for high school?
If they do decide to take the honors, geometry, or language arts, are those weighted GPAs or?
Not yet,
No, they're not. I have heard it might be.
not yet.
I'm glad you're here to answer these questions. I'll be like, AP is weighted, yes. So, and like I said, they do change things each year, so it's kind of like, this is what we know now, but it. So, but just understand that when they're gonna bring this huge piece of paper home to you next week, and, basically, anytime they want to take an honors course, they have to have a teacher's signature. So, and then also, I have to sign off on every math. So basically, I say to them, yes, this kid was a math 8, this is where they should be going. And I've already had a couple, that's why I send the letter home, so you can kind of see the difference between some of these things before we actually go through the process of picking. And please know that not everything is set in stone. So if something changes, and say they were doing pretty poorly and then they realize, oh my goodness, I need to get my butt in gear, I'm going to high school, and it happens, then we might change what we were going to do. So we do have that ability at the end of the year to kind of reevaluate and say, I need to change this, and every year I end up calling over there and saying, can you change this kid, and this kid? So know that it's not necessarily set in stone at this point.
Is it hard to make schedule changes once they're there?
Yes.
Yes. Basically, and that's another thing, is I've talked to the kids a lot about, especially the honors geometry. In the past, that has been one of the classes that many kids have tried to drop out of, because they get in and they realize how difficult it really is. They try to drop out, but at that point, it tends to become a major issue because they now don't have a teacher for a regular geometry class. So I do try to make sure that they're really understanding, we need to make a good choice now, but we do have that ability if we need it. Okay? Go ahead.
Do you hear from the kids who decided to take the regular geometry? Oh, I took algebra 2 or algebra last year, this is a piece of cake.
I do tend to have quite a few kids. Basically what will happen is I will have a group of geometry kiddos who come back who took honors, and the group that are taking regular, and the regular are going, oh, thank goodness I wasn't in that class. They're not normally saying this is really too easy. They're still gonna be working hard, but they're usually just so, they see the load of the other kids and they realize that that was the best choice for them. So I do, and I'm not in any way trying to discourage any child from taking an honors course, but I really am wanting to be realistic about what is involved. And I talk to them about, I was there, I was that kid. I wanted every honors class, I wanted the best GPA, and I talked to them about how I kind of broke down my junior year, and the stress was just so overwhelming, and kind of, so hopefully they kind of get that point, is do it. Some of you are gonna be amazing at it. We do want you to try to do your best, but really think about what's most important to you. Okay? So, as things come through, you will be signing lots of papers, okay? If you have any questions, please let us know. There are, on that website, on that planning guide, are all the descriptions of everything. It's pretty easy as a freshman because they do take their math, their science, their language arts piece. So most of them are gonna go into, I don't even know, what's the first social studies, do you know?
It's, pardon me?
Changed it?
They changed it.
Did they
Now-
change it again this year?
Well, Yeah, I think next year now it's US history. Well, I could be wrong. I know that they changed it and they're requiring something for
Yeah, I
all the
haven't seen the
freshmen to
new.
go into it.
Yeah, I haven't seen the new one yet, but
I haven't either.
they will give them the path, just like it has
Right.
for math, and just the normal track that's there. Like I said, it's usually in the other years that they start to offer more honors classes and then AP a little bit closer to the end, although there are AP scattered throughout.
So there is kind of a set normalcy, and then kids, based on where they really want to do things, they can kind of go out. And then freshmen are not allowed off period, from what I assume is that is going to be the same. I can't imagine they change that. You don't want them leaving campus because they might not come back. It doesn't matter as much when you're a freshman, so. Okay, go ahead.
So my daughter wants to take AP Human Geography, but she also wants to take the World Geography, which is the norm. Can she do that as a extra class, like one that she chooses?
Like an
or
elective.
type, I mean.
I haven't seen students do that, but that doesn't preclude it from happening. I would definitely have her ask that question of the counselor
Yeah.
when they're here on next week.
Okay.
Yeah, because I've never had that happen. But I have had some students double up. Like there will be kids who will double up a math when they get to a certain point, and that becomes a very difficult thing, but it's done. So it's probably possible. It's just a matter of what they're going to allow. They might just make one an elective. So, go ahead.
You sent home the letter about the math. Will we get a similar letter about the language arts?
No, basically language arts, they either will go into, there's really two choices. They go into regular English 1 or English 1 honors.
Okay. And the difference is just the amount of work.
The difference is, well, here's the thing. Yes, but they also expect skills to be there. Previously, they have made them do some sort of paper or something. I'm not sure what they're going to do this year, but if they're, because I know right now we have a ton of kids in honors language arts, and honestly, some of them don't have the skills to be there. They really don't. So
Mrs. Wilkins invite us.
well, she will.
Your kids should go.
She does have to sign off if they want to go to honors. And basically, if we disagree, then we will have a conversation with you. You know, especially in language arts and math. So we will make sure you know, hey, this is why we feel your child should or shouldn't be in the class. And there are times where I have kids who come to me and they aren't signed up for honors, and I'll be like, whoa, wait a second. Why not? So there are both sides to it. If we disagree, we will definitely be having that conversation. Electives as a freshman should be, what?
She asked how many?
Yeah.
For each semester.
That's what I was thinking. So they actually do have, and this is on that website too, there is the 4-year plan kind of shows you where there are blanks. They should be taking certain things. So they will have to take four years of language arts, 3 of social studies, 3 of math, 3 of science, PE, once, 1 fine arts, and 1 practical arts. I don't know what practical arts is.
Fine arts is like art class,
Yeah.
band, all those things. Practical arts can be just about anything else.
Oh,
Engineering,
okay.
computers, business. Yeah.
Okay, got it. Makes sense. So, and there is also in addition to their regular, getting their regular degree, they have options to do like a STEM endorsement. And as you kind of go through looking at things, when you get the paperback, you'll see where it says STEM right next to it, and that will be a class that applies to that endorsement. So, and that's, at least they're not yelling in French as they come out. Go ahead.
Do you know much about the science
So the three, let me find the science paper, because I did actually print the science. So it's showing three options. The Earth Environmental Science, Foundations of Physics, and then the AP Physics. So it looks like usually as a 10th grader, they do the biology piece. And then as 11th grader, junior, they do the chemistry piece.
I think you may have an older one. Biology is the default for 9th grade. They
This is
can
last
take-
year's.
Yeah, they can take physics, AP physics, and biology, basically.
Okay. So, and that, they have changed that a couple times.
Yeah.
So, and there should be that same flow chart once we get to see it next week.
Yep.
I will next week, and when I do the weekly newsletter, I'll try to make sure I get the link for that, just so you guys can kind of see it at home if you forget. Oh yeah, that was on there. So, once they post it, then I'll be able to link it for you guys. Okay? So, any other questions?
So do you have a lot of kids who choose to take honors geometry, honors English, and an AP class?
I have a lot of kids who come to me with that, and I tend to be able to talk quite a few of them out of it. And I know that probably sounds like not good, but I want them to have fun. I want them to have that social aspect, to have that sports piece, to have.
There's a lot more to high school than just
Yes.
learning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure, right.
And colleges look very favorably on the activities that they're participating
Absolutely.
in as well, and the clubs and all of that. If they participated in those kind of things, colleges really are looking at that more intensely now than they ever before.
And even today, I already had a student come to me saying, I do want to take physics, I want to take honors geometry, and I want to take the AP. And I looked at him and I said, aren't you in about every play and musical we do? He was like, yeah. I said, and how many hours are you usually here for middle school practice? He's like, okay, I get it. Like, you just literally won't have enough hours in the day. It just isn't going to happen. Okay? And it's not that I absolutely believe that he could do it. I just really want them to have that ability to love school and have fun. And high school was so fun for me. I don't know if it was for you guys, but I loved it. I was always like at the football games and doing things. So I want them to have that ability. And then in a couple of years working, maybe. Driving. So there's so much that is going to happen in the next few years with that change. So just making sure there's a balance there. And I know some of them are still going to be like, no, I want this. It's okay. We'll let them. But we will still have that conversation. So any other questions, guys, about high school registration? Hopefully you saw in my letter that next Wednesday is when the actual counselors will come over and talk to the kids. So they'll have basically a meeting with all the kids, discuss exactly how to fill out the registration, what classes are available, kind of where you should be headed type thing, what you need for graduation. And then later that night at 7 o'clock, the high school's doing the meeting for the parents. And every year that I've been here, it's basically the same meeting that your kids had. So if you choose to not take them with you, that would probably be okay because they've already had the information. Or if you feel that they are pretty good and they understand everything, you might not need to go to that meeting.
And I just got the email about that they're also doing tours.
Yes. So from what I hear, it's supposed to start at 6:15 for tours, and I've let the kids know that too. And I tell them, look, it's the same meeting you'll get probably, but if you haven't been in the building and you kind of want to do the tour, and we will, as it gets closer to the end of the year, we do take them over there, but they don't do a huge they don't go through the hallways. They literally are in the gymnasium and in the lunchroom. So they don't ever experience that piece of being and seeing the rooms and how big the building actually is. And then that first week when they're getting trampled, they finally figure out, oh my goodness, we're in a totally different world. Tell them to hide behind the football players. They'll get through. So yes, if you want to go, that is a possibility next week. And then throughout the year, we will kind of be getting them ready. And hopefully you saw in the weekly email that for us, it's a really big deal that we are kind of in that point where we're transitioning to the high school piece. We're not going to accept late homework. We're not going to do some of the things that are more the middle school philosophy. Although believe me, we're definitely still middle school teachers. So, but we want them to be prepared and kind of have those mistakes here. So when they get up there, it doesn't count. Well, when they get up there, it won't count against them. You know, if they have that mistake here and they can learn from it, then they won't have any issues up there. Okay, go ahead.
I just have a little, I know a lot of you already have high
Yes.
school students. I have a junior, but one thing that was always a little disconcerting is that those counselors have like 500 kids. And
Mhm.
I've had wonderful, wonderful responses if I ever had questions or anything like that. And they'll communicate with you a lot, the counseling department, because there's always something that we need to know, if it's even just socially for the kids or
Right.
other registrations or prep testing or whatever. But during the back to school nights and some of the other times when you go as parents, the counselors are available if you go and sign up. Like, they're just in their little hallway, they're not down in like in the gym and the commons. And so my husband and I made an appointment, you just go and sign up to be able to meet them. Just because that's kind of nice, because it's really, I mean, it's really your kid with the counselor.
Mhm.
But just kind of keep your eyes open. I mean, you don't have to. I'm just throwing something out there that I learned because, you know, it's like you wouldn't even know who they are. You know, I mean, they'll be introduced to you up front, but it's kind of nice to have them know you, and for you to be able to go and say, okay, they told me they needed this, this, and this, and is that how we're really feeling? And like, but that maybe just be us. But just FYI.
But you know what, it's great because my stepson, his counselor, actually I went to school with her, so I was able to quickly email her saying, okay, I keep getting these phone calls that he's not in class, can you pull him in? Or, you know, is he actually going to graduate? I was concerned right now. But he did. I'm sure it had nothing to do with me. No. So just kind of knowing those things is great. And it is a little more hands-off when you get up to the high school. I would say the communication probably is not going to be as much. They don't team. So you're going to have teachers all throughout the building that your kid has that don't talk to each other about it like we do. That's our big thing in the middle school is we love that we have all the same kids so we can work through problems. So if you are having a problem or if you are struggling, you know, make sure that that communication is there with them. And we highly, highly, highly encourage you that the child is the communication, not the parent. And that's been one thing we've worked on throughout the year, just like in PE Health. I know Mr. Kelly has focused on, this is how you talk to a teacher, this is how you write an email to a teacher. And I got an email the other night and it basically, I don't remember what it said, but it basically said, you need to do this for me. And I politely emailed back and said, I want you to realize that this is the way I saw that email, and I would really prefer next time you say, can you please do this? I wasn't here. And, so we do really try to instill that in them is, you know, be an advocate for your kid, but let them be that advocate for themselves too. If you need to step in, absolutely. You know, I did call the counselor to make sure he was right. So, just be okay with it. It's kind of hard, you guys with the ones first going. So, any other questions? Okay, guys. Well, feel free to definitely email me. If you have any that come up, especially as we're doing this process next week, And then the kids next week will meet their actual counselor, and they can have that communication open, so they should be able to get the counselor's email right away too. And if you have specific high school questions, they can answer those. We've been through the process many, many times, and if something's happening or they're not bringing their paper in, believe me, we'll be on it, and you might get a phone call home saying, I really have to have this paper now. Before you know it, we'll be walking them across the street. Exciting. Okay? So thank you for coming. I appreciate it. And definitely let us know if you need anything.